Very recently, one of our viewers wrote in saying, "How do I teach my child financial responsibility?" Let's see if we can take that on in today's video. Like with almost any other topic, I think we have to acknowledge and take a look first at our own attitudes.
About finance. Financial topics bring up a lot of emotions. Have you noticed that? There's always like, ooh.
Oh, yeah. A lot of energy attached to money and whether I have enough or how I'm going to get some.
Or even having other people know that you're thinking about it or what you're going to do with it, right?
Right. So let's start with an acknowledgement of our own attitudes and programming about money. If you're coming from a place where you've struggled with money, where you think that money will solve your problems, where you feel that you don't have enough, that's going to impact how you teach your children.
Right.
We probably just opened a big old can of worms because there are so many emotionally charged issues around money.
And everybody is programmed. Whatever
Yes.
you're programming, you kind of know about money, what your parents
Programmed
taught you or didn't teach you, but either way programmed you for. Mm-hmm.
And we're not asking you to change
No.
that. We're mostly just inviting you to see it and
To be
acknowledge
aware.
it.
Yeah, to examine it occasionally.
Take a look at what your attitudes are and realize that it's going to affect how you interact with your kids. Now, can you change your own attitudes about money? Sure you can. That's not the purpose of this video. Just realize that it's going to impact how you work with your kids. Right. Definitions are often important as we're trying to teach a particular topic, and the first one is an obvious one. What is money?
But that's so scary. How do you answer that question, right?
Sometimes we make the error in thinking that money is value. Money isn't value. Money follows value. Money is a result of creating value. So the value happens and then the money flows after that. For example, if we have someone come over here to do something at our house, our air conditioning man came over and made this house much cooler in the summer.
Much more pleasant.
Grateful for that, aren't we? He created value for us. Guess what? We gave him some
money.
Right?
Right?
Yeah, why?
Because it had created value for us. I think where you define money, I think one of the important things to talk to our kids about is the fact that money in and of itself doesn't have that much value.
Right.
It doesn't really have any. The only thing money has value for is what you can exchange it.
For something that you actually value.
Yeah.
So we exchange some of our money for something we really value, which is having a cool home in the summer.
And I doubt he hung on to that money and just went to bed holding it going, this is the best thing in the world.
This is what I always wanted.
He exchanged it for, I don't know, an oil change and some food and I don't know what else. Whatever is important to him, that's what he exchanged it for.
And this is reflected in your attitudes and your language, because if you're constantly talking about how you want money or you need money, no, you don't. You want or need what the money can buy for you, what you can trade it for.
Right. And that changes a whole nother story, because if you're talking with your kids about, boy, I would really like to go on a vacation, and now I'm going to try to figure out how to earn the money to pay for that vacation. It's kind of changed the value of the money. It's now the value is put on the vacation, which is really what you value.
That's what you want. And how do you get the money? Well, you got to figure out how to create enough value for other people that they'll trade their money for that value that you created for them.
Right.
So money is not value. Money follows value. Think of it as a receipt. That's a handy way for me to think about it. You create value, you get a receipt for that. Okay? Or if you receive value, you have to give somebody a receipt for that value. That's the money.
Okay, one of the big key things that I've tried really hard to work with our kids is learning a budget. And boy, I have 4 kids, and I've gotten a lot of different responses to that. What is budget, Because most of my kids, I've had some kids that are like, I don't want to be restricted. I don't want to be told I can't do anything.
Budget. That's a 6-letter word. We can't say that, right? Well, what is budget? Let's define budget.
Okay, let's do.
Budget first by what it's not.
Right.
Budget is not restriction.
Right.
That's what has people avoiding it, and teenagers especially. They don't want to be restricted, right?
Yeah, their development is to kick against being restricted. So budgeting is a really hard thing for them to wrap their head around unless we define it for them so that they understand it's not restriction.
So what is it? What if we were to think of our money as little employees? Okay, every little unit of money is an employee of mine.
Right.
The budget is the marching orders.
Right. Yep. So
I'm going to tell each one of them what to do.
This one's going to go pay for a movie, and this one's going to pay for new shoes, and this one's you're telling them.
And I'm going to send these 10 over there to an account that's going to grow for me to a point where I can use that for investing. So budget is not restriction. Budget is marching orders. And who's going to give the orders?
Hopefully me, right? I'd rather take control of it. And that's where budget is strong. It's not a restriction. It's a chance for you to take control of it.
You know what's the darndest thing about these little units of money?
What's that?
Whether they're dollars or euros or yen or whatever they are, they will march somewhere. They're going to go somewhere. Have you noticed this about your own money?
I used to always joke that as soon as we got a certain amount in our savings account, our car must have heard us talk about it because it'd break down for that exact amount.
And the point with the budget, you get to be in charge. Give these little guys marching orders so that they know where you want them to go. That's what a budget is.
Right.
Vicki, let's take on one more term. This is one that is often misunderstood. It's called interest.
Yeah.
My grandfather used to say, those who understand interest earn it. Those who don't pay it. And I think he really lived that way too.
He did. He lived that way. So we really have to talk about interest early to children. You know, it's not just a magical thing that happens on one, you know.
Do you understand interest? When you put your money in an account and it earns interest, where did that come from? When you put your money into that account, whether it's an investment account, some kind of a mutual fund or a stock, or even a savings account at a bank, does your money just sit there and magically grow? No. Your money leaves and goes marching. We talked about that.
The bankers send it on a marching order, and then they give you some interest for letting them use your little soldiers for a while.
Because they're all going out to do what? To create value for other people. That's the magic of interest.
Yeah.
The money gets put to work. So my dad, for example, he likes to turn items out of wood. He's got a lathe. He makes pens. He makes magic wands. He makes kaleidoscopes. And these are really cool little items. Well, what if he's sitting there with nothing to do? And I approach him and I say, hey, Dad, why don't you make some of those cool things? And Dad's like, well, I would, but I don't have wood to turn. I don't have the materials to go make that stuff. Well, what if I give you $20? Can you go get the materials? And he's like, yeah, sure. So I give him the $20. He goes and he buys wood and materials and he gets everything together, and then he applies his skill and his knowledge and his human life value to that material, and he transforms it into something that someone else would value. They pay him money in exchange for that. Now he has more than $20. Magically? No. He created value for people.
Right, yeah.
Now, can he turn around and give me $20 back plus an extra couple of dollars as interest?
For letting him use your money, right?
See, it's not magic. That money is not sitting somewhere. It's being put to use to create value for other people. Now, this is important to understand because we all get into some kind of magical thinking about money. And our kids will have magical ideas about money, especially if we're demonstrating that to them in our own attitudes and behaviors. So we're taking the magic out of this. Money doesn't just magically appear. And stop saying, oh, I don't have the money, or I wish I had the money. It's not wishful magical stuff. It's about creating value. How can we create more value for more people? That's the economic answer. So that takes the magical thinking out of it and helps your kids to have a solid financial understanding. As we've defined these terms for our kids and give them a better understanding of what money is, where it comes from, take the magical thinking out of it, we now want to give them opportunities to actually practice this.
And the reasons to do it. I think a really great term to teach your kids and to model is instead of them saying, Mom, can I go to the movies? You might say, Mom, what would it take for me to go to the movies? And so that might bring up a conversation where it's like, okay, well, if you will, because remember that money isn't the value. There's a lot of things for values. So you might tell them something they could earn the money, or you might say, if you will help me get the rest of the lawn mowed, I'll drive you down there. So what will it take? How can I get to the point where I can do this? So that just kind of takes the power out of the money portion of it.
Right. And puts the responsibility back on their shoulders.
Yeah.
So I'm picturing this interaction. And our kids learned this as we started to implement some of these things with them. I remember our son coming to us and say, Mom, Dad, what would it take for me to get and something that he wanted? Right? That is a beautiful question.
Right.
And as a parent, it's fun to hear that. Because they're not asking for something. They're like, what would it take? You can respond. Let's go back to your movie example for a minute. What would it take to go to the movies? Well, sweetie, the movies cost $5. Have you thought about how you could handle that?
Right.
And they're like, Now, if you've instilled a culture around this where they understand value exchange and they know that it's not magical, it just doesn't magically appear in Mom's hand anytime that I want money. Mom got it from somewhere.
Right.
So how have you thought that you might handle that? Well, I don't have $5. I wonder what you could do to obtain $5.
Right. So just get them thinking and taking some ownership and responsibility. And that's part of the thing with parenting is you don't want to provide everything carte blanche for them.
Good point.
Right.
Why would they have any motivation to go obtain the $5 if you're always providing
If they say,
it
Mom, I
for
want to
them?
go to the movies. Okay, let's go. And you just swipe.
Now, a little disclaimer here, because you have to provide certain things to your kids.
Yeah.
By law, morally, ethically, because you're a good parent. But there's only 5.
Right.
5 freebies. And they are in this order. Love. Because your job is what?
To
love them no matter what. Even if. I know we harp on that all the time on this channel. Love them. That is free. It's not conditional on anything. The next thing, air. I know you don't always think about that because you don't provide it, but you have no business depriving them of it.
So you're providing it.
So love, air. 3rd, water. 4th,
food.
Yes, and it doesn't mean preferred food necessarily.
Nutrition.
You got to keep the belly button away from the backbone.
Right.
Right? And then 5th, shelter, which in most cultures and societies includes appropriate clothing. Now, those are the freebies. They don't have to buy their own. Now, everything else, what if you were to give them some opportunities to practice what you've taught them about money so that they can manage some of their own funds and obtain the things that they want outside of the freebies list on their own money?
Yeah. I think the most important thing is just start talking about money. Just start talking about finances, money, budget, interest, all of these things.
We love being part of your positive parenting team. So glad that you're here and that you share this channel with other conscious positive parents like you. Encourage them also to join us at the Parenting Power Up. ParentingPowerUp.com. We'll see you there.
I saw her standing in the street alone. Her head was down, face locked onto her phone.